and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting UnderTheHoodShow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. Russ, this is Shannon. Shannon, this is Russ. I'm Chris. Chris, hi, it's Russ. Russ,
what's up,
Shannon.
guys?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had the whole gang together
It's been
here.
a few days, yeah.
My goodness.
It's very good to have everyone back.
It always works better when we're all here.
You had an interesting visit with some folks in the industry. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, but right now, Tim has been waiting to get on. I like when people call before the show starts and they're ready to go, and then I feel like I know what I should do. I feel like I have direction. So let's talk to Tim right away. Tim, you are on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I've got a 99 GMC Suburban with 265,000 miles on. And I normally was running 530 oil in, and I was wondering, the last time I changed oil, all there was 520. And I was wondering if I should stick with 520, the lighter weight oil, and with that amount of mileage on my vehicle.
Definitely not. You should stick with the oil that's recommended for that vehicle, the 530. The 520 is going to be right. That 520 is going to be too light. It's a colder time of the season now, so it's not going to kill it right now, but yeah, you definitely want that 530 in there for the rest of the season.
For the rest of its life, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be good. Just that's what they originally were putting in those, and that's what they recommend, and that's what we would stick with too.
And some of the old school thinking was that you would increase oil viscosities as engines aged because you were trying to, get some more cushion out of loose gaps in bearings and try not to have it burn as much oil. But that's an era gone by. They make high mileage formulated oils that are in 530s that may have different chemical packages in them and a different pack that they put in the oil that can be better for seals that are aging in the engine and just different compositions that can be helpful for a motor at that age in life. But we do not recommend switching viscosities.
How do I know? We talk about this a lot. Tim, does that help you out? Does that get you pointed in the right direction there?
Yes, I got another question too.
Okay, go ahead. Mine isn't important. Isn't as important as yours.
Well, I don't know that mine is that important. It's about my brother's truck. He's got a 96 Chev plow truck, and he doesn't take it on the highway very much, mainly just to go to the dump. But when he does drive it on the highway, it'll drop out of overdrive and drop into third gear. Is that strictly a transmission problem, or is that something else?
It could be something else. So on a 96, that could be a mass airflow sensor that is dirty, and it doesn't know, it can't judge the load on the engine. So yeah, the mass airflow sensor is going to be up in the air cleaner assembly on that right close to the fender. Look at that, make sure it's clean. If it's not clean, you can use some Berryman B12 chem tool and clean that out. Then just blow on it airwise. You don't use a compressed air or anything. It can damage the sensor wire in there. On this vehicle, that's what we'd have you do on this model specifically. Check that and then look for any vacuum lines that may be leaking. If it doesn't have proper vacuum, if it's not sealed up right, it's not going to sense the load. So what happens is as you drive down the road, when that engine senses, the engine computer senses that there's a increase in load, it'll drop it down out of overdrive or kick the lockup out on the torque converter. And that's what you're experiencing. So it could be anything that affects load value for the computer, such as a vacuum leak, anything like that.
And never discount, though, the fact that there could be something going on inside, because that is a telltale sign that if a transmission gets weak in a taller gear and it tries to go to that gear, it won't hold that gear because it just doesn't have enough clamping force on the clutches to do it. So you want to make sure, I always tell people on this type of vehicle, I talked about old school earlier, it is still old school. If you pull the dipstick out and look at the transmission fluid and it's burnt and smelly, it's slipping clutches, most likely, and that's probably an indication that you're not holding that gear. But if your fluid still looks pretty decent and doesn't have the burnt clutch smell to it, yeah, those options that Russ said are definitely in play.
Tim, thanks very much for the call. What I was going to ask was, how do we know, we talk about this a lot, that they sometimes update. If I have a 99 and it has one oil package suggested, how do I know if or when the oil that I can buy at the store is different and should be changed, or if my truck changed the idea? Because that happens once in a while where they go, oh, we should use this instead. How do I find that out?
Yeah, you have to keep on top of that by getting a hold of the dealership where you bought it, or the manufacturer's website, to see if there's been an oil change. Typically, there is not.
Okay.
Some of the older vehicles going back into the 90s took 10W30. Well, when the EPA did away with the 10W30 for all production cars, Ford, GM, Chrysler, they all updated and said now it's the multi-weight 530 because that meets emissions better. It's refined a little different, so they wanted to make sure. It's a semi-synthetic blend, so they wanted to make sure that they all met that. And then that was upgraded, but the caps still say 1030, and to this day I have people call me and email saying, it says 1030, what am I supposed to run? Well, it's now moved to 530 on that, but it still carries the upper end for the 30. But as far as the high mileage oils you can buy on the shelf, you stick with the same weight. If you got a 530 vehicle, buy the 530, but you can purchase a 530 high mileage oil when your vehicle starts getting around that 100,000 mile mark. And it just helps condition the seals and things in the engine to protect them and keep it from burning oil.
And the things you've heard for years is meet or exceed the API service grade. So better technology comes out, it will exceed the original API service grade. But also facilities like Russ's shop that he manages, they have a lot of that data available. So if you have a relationship with your mechanic, their systems will recommend when they see changes like that. They're wired in with the manufacturer's information. And I'd say not all the time, but the highest majority of the time, if there's going to be a change, you're going to see it in your system when you start doing the ticket for that customer, correct?
For sure.
And so that's going to be important too, is that relationship with your mechanic, if they're hooked up to the modern technology, all that system that Russ has that's built by Mitchell, they are cloud-based systems and they're constantly updating information. So you're not having to say, all right, well, I've got the build of my shop management system from 3 years ago and I haven't updated it yet. It just doesn't work that way anymore. It's a cloud-based system, and so the data and the information that the repair shops are getting, if they're using the modern tools, it's real time, all the time, getting updated. So that would also be a good source to know what might be. Because I think what you're thinking of is the same thing. We had Volkswagen with their 1.8 turbos had quite a problem, and they found out that the recommended oil from the factory was causing them problems for sure. And so once they got out in the field, so they changed the spec of the oil, and it was part of a class action lawsuit and a big mess. But that is an indication, like Russ said, most of the time it doesn't, but there are times that it does.
866-594-4150. Let's go to California and talk to Brandon. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Brandon, what can we do for you?
Hi, when I left that message last week, I have a 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 3.6. And when I drive spirited, you could say, the temperature will go to about the 3/4 mark instead of a halfway mark where it usually sits. And after that, like, it'll go up to the 3/4, and then it will cool down and just stay at the halfway mark. The rest of your drive won't go up at all unless you start driving spirited again. And only things I've replaced, I haven't gone much past the radiator or the thermostat and thermostat housing. Oh, wait, forgot. I did do the water pump 2 years ago. But after that, I don't know what could be causing that. I fear head gasket because of the engine it is and the problems they've had with the heads. I just don't remember what years they were that had the problem with the heads. So I was just hoping to get some kind of insight, I guess.
Well, first thing I'd want to do is find out what that exact temperature is, because if it's only going up to 3/4 and it's not into the red, it may just be running a little warmer, because typically if you got one of those engines running around 210 on a 80-degree day or so and you drive it really hard, you could get it up to 220, 224, 225, and then it would cool back down. That's one thing I'd want to do in our shop. I would put a probe right on it and find out what it's doing as I'm driving. And then the second thing I'd do would be to put a probe on the radiator on the inlet side and the outlet side of it and see if I'm dropping enough across it, because even though you've got a new radiator in it, we found some of the aftermarket radiators, they weren't quite up to par, and they would not cool one of those engines as fast as it
not
should.
Not as good of heat sink ability.
Right. It just was not flowing enough to keep it cool under that really hard driving conditions.
Are we talking about a 4.7 here?
3.6.
3.6 on this one. Okay. I was just trying to think of the year range and what he had there.
Yeah, so two things. Check the exact temp of that engine by using like a multimeter that has a temp probe on it that you can run out under the hood and leave inside the car, and then find out exactly what it is there as it comes out the thermostat housing to go to the radiator. And then your other thing would be to check the inlet and the outlet side of that radiator, make sure it's dropping enough across it. And there are some specs in the factory manuals. And
of course, if you are really nervous about exhaust gas getting into, there's hydrocarbon tests that you can buy at the store or rent the tool or whatever it may happens to be to do that test to see if you are having hydrocarbons get into your coolant.
Brandon, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. Bob, you're up next on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Bob in Ohio. Bob, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yes. How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, look, I have actually my granddaughter's car. It's a 2019 Chevy Trax. What it's doing is when you turn the ignition off, the blower fan for the radiators continues to run until it kills the battery. And a little history about it was doing that for almost a week. Then my granddaughter hit the car parked on the street. Some spirited driver came down the street, fast swiped the car while he was parked.
Oh no!
And then they didn't do much damage to the car, but the car did end up in the neighbor's yard on top of one of the neighbor's cars. But after that happened, the fan started working right. So it worked right for about 2 weeks. Now it started that same thing all over again.
Oh, so the crash helped the fan for a little period of time.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, under the hood of that vehicle, they're similar to some other Chevy vehicles like the Encore and things. They have a set of 3 relays in the fuse box on the driver's side fender, and when if you were to pull those relays out while the fan is running and it quits, well, then you've got a bad relay. You just need to replace the relays in there. Then there is a resistor that is used to change the speed of the fans, which is bolted. It's bolted right to the fan shroud itself. If you were to unbolt the fans from the engine of the fan and pull it out and unplug it, you'd see where it's located. It's on the inside of the fan shroud to keep it cool, but the wiring is on the outside. So you've got a problem going on in there. Typically, we see a lot of those resistors go out and the fan will only work on one speed. So it works on high, but not low, and it slowly cooks the engine because that's just not enough coolant.
Nobody wants that.
No. But on the stuck on things, I would look at those relays. They're in the fuse box on the driver's side fender up towards the front there by the headlight. And sometimes you could even just tap on them, give them a little tap, tap, tap. And if the fans shut off, that's a great indication that those relays are bad.
Like that.
Yeah.
No harder than the bridge of your nose. Is that a no harder than, or is that a, can I pound on that one a little?
You can hit that one a little bit harder.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Does that get you pointed in the right direction there, Bob?
Yes, that'll work. I'll do that. I thought I seen one cube relay in there, but I didn't see more than one.
There should be three. If you're in the right box up there, there should be three. There's two boxes. You got a fuse box, and then you've got a little box on the fender area. So look around for that.
Okay.
I got to come back and ask about this incident.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about this. You said the vehicle got lightly sideswiped, didn't get hurt very bad, but ended up on another car. I'm trying to get a visual of this.
Okay, she's parked on the street. It's overnight. It's probably about 2 a.m. A car comes down the street, barreling down the street, fast swipes the car, ends up in the neighbor's yard across the street on top of the neighbor's car, because I guess once it hit the curb, it went airborne. So the other neighbors who had a car parked in their yard, their car ended up on top of it. And then my brother said, hey, it's working now.
So it was the car that hit her that ended up on top of the other car. We were thinking that this Trax made tracks right on top of another car,
right,
and didn't get hurt very bad after getting sideswiped. I say this sounds like a miracle.
Yeah, no, this was. Were there any doorbell cams that captured this at all?
Well, she showed me pictures of it later, and I guess she woke up and they told me they seen sparks flying everywhere. I guess once the sideswiped her car, it damaged her door slightly. So now when she opened the door, it makes that noise, like it's got a little crinkle in it. And whoever was in the car, they got out and ran. Had a 30-day plate on it.
Oh.
So I'm like, so we kept laughing at her because, hey, it isn't often your car get hit and then it starts working again. So I'm thinking, like you said, it's probably maybe one of those relay contactors might be shut.
Yes, yes.
Basically, the car tapped on the relay and
by
got
itself.
It running. Bob, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Idaho and talk to Robert. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Robert, what can we do for you?
Yes, I have a 2002 Trailblazer. I've had it since it was new. Has approximately 120,000 miles on it. I took it in for service, and they said the upper and lower ball joints need replaced, and I just don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know how to check that myself, or just take their word for it. I wonder what your thoughts are on how long those last.
How many miles again on this Trailblazer?
120.
120?
120.
Yeah, you could take our word for it. They're probably bad.
You're probably done, huh?
I don't know that I've ever seen a Trailblazer with 120,000 miles that has not had ball joints replaced that didn't need them. So when we see them in our shop around 110 or so, they start to get loose. They may not be so bad that they need to be replaced today where they're unsafe, but they may starting to get loose. When they start to get loose, it affects your alignment, especially every time you hit a little bump and the vehicle raises up and down slightly, the tires move, and then you start seeing wear on them, and you can get cupping and things like that. So yes, it could be time for upper and lower ball joints, but I can see why you're asking, because the cost of upper and lower ball joints in one of those is what are they quoting you? A little over $1,000 for all of them installed and alignment and everything?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and that's been that way for 10 years or more. That's been about the price when you get quoted upper and lower on a four-wheel drive vehicle or like a Trailblazer or something like that, where it's not a strut and a ball joint in the bottom. You're going to be, around $1,000 or so, give or take, or real close. But yeah, you could check them yourself at home.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Russ. If you guys have got that in there, what's the test he can do? Take some weight off it, or what would you do if it was just a no? Because it makes him feel better that he knows.
In the driveway at home or in our shop, we'll roll the floor jack up underneath the lower ball joint on one side, get the tire off the ground enough that we can get a long bar under it, a fence post, something, and then we'll lift up on the tire and lower it and watch that ball joint. And if the ball joint and the knuckle move away from each other, you can see play in there. It's definitely bad. So that's a good indication of how to check that lower ball joint on there yourself. Or you can have the shop. If you come to me as a customer and say, could you show me what you mean by a bad ball joint while I've got it on the hoist? Well, I better show you what it is. Otherwise, you shouldn't trust that shop to do the work. They should be able to show you every time what part is bad and give you an idea how it failed even.
And I'll say this too, as a consumer, there is a difference. And this comes down in my case, because I talk to you all the time and we, we're friends out, all of that stuff. But there's a difference sometimes between you're going to need ball joints and you need ball joints. And as a consumer, sometimes you hear something different than what is being said. Or does that make sense?
Well, give you a great example. Yesterday, one of our great customers, Robert Berry, listens to the show every week. He's been a hoodie for years. He comes in with his 06 Kia Spectra, which has got close to 300,000 miles on it. He's trying to keep this thing going, and he does a great job maintaining it. But he came in and he said, when I step on the gas, it pulls to one side, and this is a manual trans. And sure enough, I drove it and went, this is going to kill somebody. I raised it up. The lower ball joint was not just bad, it was ready to fall off. So I replaced the control arm and ball joint and showed him the old one. He says, oh, yeah, it's a little loose, isn't it? Yes, it was. So
And Dorman makes assemblies for a lot of those, too.
And that's where I got it. I got both those lower control arm assemblies from Dorman. So we got the ball joint and the control arm all together and was able to swap it. The hardest part was getting the rusted bolts out of the vehicle because I couldn't access the back. I'd normally put some PB blaster or something in there, but couldn't access it. Had to cut a hole.
Dorman, one of our fine partners here on the Under the Hood Show. You might be hearing from them in just a second.
Maybe.
Because we're going to take a break. We'll be back on the Under the Hood Show. Robert, thanks very much for the call.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. If you follow us on Facebook and you like the Under the Hood Show, and you join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, there's really only 2 steps there. I made it 3, but it really is it's just 2. You could win a hoodie.
Yeah, like Chris Wright. Thanks from all of us here at Under the Hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mike. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mike, what can we do for you?
Yes, I've got a 06 Vibe, the 4-cylinder. Going to change plugs in it, but tried to pull those boots out, and boy, I'm afraid I'm going to tear something apart. Do they make some type of a tool that would slide down to the bottom of that boot to kind of help grab onto it while you could work it out?
They do. They actually make one for pulling out boots that are down in heads on engines that you can pick up from Snap-on and things like that. Sometimes you'll find one at an auto parts store, but it's pretty rare. I can't remember the last time I've seen one. I saw one at a bargain bin at a store like 2 decades ago when these things first came out, but I haven't seen one lately, but I haven't looked for one either. So I don't know. But the other thing you can do is get some kind of a hook tool, and you may end up tearing that boot apart with that little hook tool, trying to grab it out of there. And then once you do get it out of there, you'll need to get a shop vac or something and vacuum it out. But you can't fit the shop vac down in the hole very well. So what we do is cut a small piece of like fuel line, and we duct tape that to the end of the shop vac and stick that down in the hole so we can pull those pieces out. So
you need a lint lizard.
There you go.
Like the dryer thing I have.
Does the boot separate from the conductor that goes to
From the coil pack on there? No. Some of them do, some of them don't. I think on the first design, you can get them off of there and buy new boots. If they don't, you've got to buy a complete coil assembly. And I know our partner over at Motorrad has made several of these that have in their engine management products. They make the coil assembly, and it comes with the boot already on it, whether it's like for a 5.4 or a Chevy, or the Ford 5.4, or even that little Vibe engine, the Toyota designs, where they're connected, because a lot of these, they mold them together at the factory and you can't get them apart.
I bet that Vibe looks fine just out in the parking lot, right? It looks like all the other cars out there now.
Modern.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
See,
been a great car. Yeah.
Chris loves the vibe.
I love the vibe, and I think the vibe, when I see a vibe, still, I can't believe you are sticking to your guns on this. I think, Shannon, that I think that you're doing this just to bug me.
No, I'm not. But the 06 is not the same as what you're thinking of.
Whatever. We're talking
about
generalities.
We're talking about a Toyota Corolla basically here on this one, like a 1.8 liter engine, right? Isn't that what you got?
Yep.
Yeah, he's just got a Toyota that's in hiding.
That looks like it could be a 2018.
I know that we have a couple of loyal drivers of these cars that have kept them and drove them, and they just run the wheels off. And one of our managers, Jay, had quite a number of them, and the vibes and that car, they run a long ways. Do
you think, Mike, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Do you think that whoever is in charge, whoever made the decision, or even the opposite, the person who fought back on the decision, do you think they drive on the road every day going, I saw 710 Pontiacs today. We should have kept the Pontiac. Because there are everywhere.
They have to.
They have to, right?
There's got to be editorial ownership there that goes beyond compare.
Because they still, and people love them. I mean, I think that was a miss. The Oldsmobile, which I had, I think the Oldsmobile was fine. I think getting rid of that still makes sense. It is fine. But that Pontiac,
old sounds like for old people,
and people still want. I mean, the merchandise. As someone who now owns a Pontiac, you can find a lot of Pontiac merchandise still. There's a lot of merch out there. Yeah,
they got a lot of pushback, from the people that have changed what you can say and what you can't. Also, if you notice, there are no longer any Tecumseh engines,
yeah. The logo, the name stayed, didn't it? Didn't they keep the name, but they got rid of the logo?
They moved them over. I think they're all Briggs and Stratton now. They were purchased and moved over. Yeah, a lot of that stuff has changed. So I never heard that though from anybody talking like at Pontiac. So maybe not, but
Saturn not is missed. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to David in California. David, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, gentlemen, I have a 2000 Toyota Camry, and it's running great. There doesn't seem to be any problems with it, but I keep failing the smog test where I had to pass smog out here in California, and they're telling me it's a cylinder 3 misfire, and it's going to be, they said, like $3,500 to fix. But it's running fine, and it doesn't seem to be misfiring, but the service engine light is on, so I'm wondering if there's any way to have a less expensive fix and get it to pass smog.
Oh, boy. So they're saying, based on that, I'm guessing that they're saying that you've got a problem with your, like a head, you've got need a valve job or something like that?
Yeah, they said valve job at $3,500 or $4,000, but it's running great, so... it's kind of strange, and the service engine light is on, and it's an automatic fail if the service engine light is on. So I'm wondering if there's a way around it or a cheaper fix.
Russ, what would you check first though before you start ripping the head off of that? What should they have done by now?
Got to do a leak down check on it, which is a valve and piston integrity check. What you're going to do is you're going to pull the spark plugs out, and then you're going to check the cylinder pressure and how much it leaks down. You connect this gauge to it. It's connected to compressed air, and it'll tell you in percentage how much of a leak you have, and then you can find out where it's going. You listen on the exhaust pipe. Do you hear any noise coming? Is it hiss coming out of there? Is it coming out the intake manifold? Is it coming out the oil dipstick because it's going past the piston rings into the engine? If it doesn't come out any of those areas, that's not a valve problem.
And that's good on your count.
Right.
And that means you might want to get a second opinion to what's going on at that point.
Yeah, I've had 3 fails on the smog test. Then I had the diagnostic done, and it said, misfire cylinder 3 and a valve job. Really, really expensive job. So.
Now, I'm going to back up the bus one more time here. So
okay.
you've had, what was the extent of the diagnosis that they did? You got a cylinder misfire 3. That's an electronic, tells you on a computer.
Right.
You know that, but what have they physically done to check the engine beyond telling you that?
I'm not sure. That's when I took it in for the diagnostic, and they said, like I said, misfire, cylinder 3, it needs a valve job, and there's a leak, and all kinds of
Okay,
complicated
so
stuff.
I think you need to ask a couple more questions probably of the shop that already did this test and just ask them, can you explain to me what you did to get to this conclusion? I just want to make sure that, we're on the right path here. Because if they didn't do a physical test, I think it's something that you need to have done. Because we have seen a number of, regularly, you see people misdiagnose cylinder misfires, assuming the worst, but they haven't found out yet that they had a coil misfiring. They had a fuel injector that wasn't putting a clean spray pattern on because of the miles. They've done. I've had people do emission systems cleanings on cars, and like through our partner Justice Brothers, and then after that, the misfire went away.
Exactly.
Because of things. So I just want to make sure before we always run to the worst case scenario that we know what tests have been done, because there is a physical test that Russ just described that can give you a better indication of where you're at to just give you confidence for the good or for the worst.
David, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go talk to Tom. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tom, what can we do for you?
I got a couple questions. My Ram pickup truck was throwing a code. So something about what I was doing. I'd start the truck it'd have about 30 pounds of oil pressure, and as I went down the highway, it would drop down to like 12, 15 pounds PSI. And it blew a code, so I took it into the shop, and they come up with a cam problem, and number 1 and number 3 misfire on their little handheld device, and they took it into the shop and put it on a bigger machine. And I was sitting there having a cup of coffee, and they come back and says, "You're all fixed." About a half hour later, and ready to go. And I said, "Well, what'd you do?" "Well, we changed the oil and put a different filter on it." Apparently, where I took it to one of these 15-minute oil change places, they had the wrong filter, and I haven't had a problem since.
Well, that is possible. These new engines rely heavily on the oil filter and the oil that's in it, and the whole entire oil system. What happens is they use oil pressure to run the AFM systems, the active fuel management, which shuts off cylinders, displacement on demand. They call them by all sorts of different names out there. And if you don't have the right oil pressure, or you've got something bleeding down in there, you get some air in there, it can cause some tricky things to occur. So you want to make sure you have not necessarily the factory oil filter, but a factory grade or better oil filter. You're looking at, when you look at oil filters like Wix, a quality name brand that you can trust type, oil filter, you'll know them out there. There's other ones out there too. Valvoline makes some very good ones. The factory, of course, Motorcraft, AC Delco, the Mopar. You want to make sure that you're getting a good filter. If you go to a quick lube that uses a very low grade oil filter, you can get some that have a poor drain back valve in them, and they'll get some air in there as they drain down when they sit for an extended period of time, and then it has to bleed out in the system. They have issues. So you definitely want to stick with a good grade filter. But if that fixed yours, consider yourself very lucky.
I was going to say very lucky, and I think you got to give kudos to that. Maybe this dealership or whoever he was at or repair center had seen this before in that area, in that town or something. I don't know. That was a pretty good catch.
Yeah, it's when these trucks come in and they have misfires on those cylinders specifically. So, watch what happens down the road. But typically what we find is that the cam lobes have worn off and the lifters are worn concave underneath. And when we pull the driver's side valve cover off and start that engine, you got a couple of them that aren't moving. The rest of them are moving and a couple of them are not. I've taken some great videos of these for customers and put them up on YouTube showing how that happens. And by that time, usually the engine's full of metal If they can catch it super early, sometimes they can replace the cam and lifters and fix it. But typically, it's got so much metal in it that it's not a good thing to do, and it's got high mileage. But I think this is great that they were able to take care of you like that.
Get another question, Tom?
Yes, I've only had the truck a few months. Or when I pull up to the gas pump, I just push unleaded regular. Is that the best gas for that Hemi?
On this
87?
engine, you're probably looking at, I don't know what your owner's manual recommends in there. Now, you've got a couple different things to look at when you're purchasing fuel. Look at your owner's manual, and if it says recommended or suggested, those are important things, because if it says minimum octane 87, recommended 91, or required 91, certain cars, some Cadillacs, Corvettes, things that'll say required 91, which means they require a premium fuel to keep the engine from any damage and for best performance. If it says recommended, that means that the car will perform better on that recommended higher octane fuel. And whether that higher octane fuel is a higher octane ethanol blend or a straight blend doesn't matter as far as your fuel economy goes. It's looking at the number, the 91, the premium blend.
Does it say that on the door sticker too? I think it might on mine.
And the door sticker, and a lot of times it'll be right on the fuel cap.
Right.
When you open the fuel door.
Certainly if it requires a higher octane, those tend more to say that.
Fuel cap inside of the fuel door is common. Most of them that have a required or a recommended, they do put it right in the fuel door or fuel cap.
Yeah. Have you looked? Have you noticed it or looked in your manual?
Well, I bought it used and it didn't come with the manual.
Okay.
I suppose I could ask the dealership, but since it was built, there's like 4 more grades of different kinds of gasoline came out since then.
Good point.
I think you don't want to over octane if it's not needed, but it's hard for me to believe that Hemi wouldn't like it better to have the 89 octane of a 10 or a 15% ethanol blend.
At least, yeah.
If not the E30.
Yeah, I think that if you picked up a manual for it now or got online and looked from the manufacturer's sites at what it takes, I bet that one recommends 89, and minimum probably is 87. And in some elevations, all you can get is 87, but I'll bet that one's 89. Just thinking about it, that's a pretty good performance engine.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And can I just say, I still am surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised, but when you look online for that information, you have to go find the actual information, because if you go just look at the hits you get and you go to a conversation or you see a discussion, I'm still shocked at the number of people who just, I don't know if they're lying to trick me or what, but you'll go look and you'll have somebody going, yeah, I have that exact truck. It's 41. It's 41. And then the next person goes, no, it isn't. It's 90.
The internet is filled with people that have wanted to be the expert their entire life and have never gotten to be, and they'll use that card quickly without facts.
That happens a lot out there in the world.
That's the only problem I have with the internet. The rest seems great.
It's just a small problem. Facts.
Let's talk to Nathan. You're on the Under the Hood show. Nathan, what can we do for you?
How you doing? So I got a 2006 Toyota Tacoma with 82,000 miles on it, and I ran into a deer hit me last summer, and I brought it in, and it's had a check engine light. It's been throwing a code for an oxygen sensor, lower oxygen sensor, and I brought it in to get all the damage from the deer fixed, and the place that I took it to was checking out the oxygen sensor, and evidently my catalytic converters bank 1 and 2 are out. They're garbage, and there's a hairline crack in my emissions control box, charcoal box. And I'm wondering if I straight pipe it, will that take care of everything? Do it off.
I think the deer he's in his garage with him.
I don't think he got rid of the deer.
The deer's trying to get out. Nathan, go let that deer out while we answer this question. Running into the garage door over and over.
Yeah, I actually couldn't catch all that, but
I think I got most of it, Russ.
With an O2 sensor, if you've got either a problem with the control to it, or a wiring issue, or the sensor, or there's any leaks at all in the exhaust between the manifold and that O2 sensor just downstream of that catalytic converter, they will all cause codes. So we look for leaks, make sure everything's physically good. Then we check the wiring between the sensor and the control, make sure all that's good. If all that's good and the sensor itself is good when we're looking at it on a lab scope, then we look at the computer, the modules and things like that. That's where we know.
I'm really curious about this whole deal because he's got this code, and then when they bring it in to fix the deer damage, which the deer ran into him. Did you notice that was specifically said? We'll have to ask about that. I don't know if we can yet or not, but what got them looking at catalytic converters and emission tubes? And I mean, did we go in the ditch afterwards? Has this been off road?
Ran over the deer.
Maybe, but with a cracked emissions canister, that's gonna be one problem. And I'm just gonna say from my experience, unless Russ has seen different at the shop, the Toyota catalytic converters do not fail very often. So for them to cast verdict on your catalytic converters already, I think is premature.
Okay.
Yeah, when I brought it in, they fixed the damage. They forgot to look at the O2 sensor, so I had to bring it back. And on a Sunday night, one of their salesmen called me and asked me if I wanted to sell it.
There is more to this story.
I said no. Yeah, I said no. And I bring it in. So they had already quoted me $83 to replace the oxygen sensor. And after I brought it in, they called me like 4 hours later, said they couldn't fix the oxygen sensor, that there was more to it. So I had to bring it over to their main shop, and they called me back 4 hours later and said it was the catalytic converter, bank 1 and 2 were trashed, and there was a hairline fracture in the charcoal box, and that it was going to be $3,600 to fix it.
And they still wanted to buy the vehicle.
Well, no, I told them no, I wasn't going to sell it. This is my second Tacoma. I had a 2003 before that had really low miles on it, and that also, the lower oxygen sensor went out, but I got that fixed. So this is the same problem.
Well, that's very possible, but Russ, jump in here.
Here's a thought. If you have a broken canister on it and it's got a vacuum leak, that could cause the oxygen sensors to read wrong and catalytic converters to not do what they're supposed to do. That system has to be working in closed loop with no leaks in it. But in our experience in our shop, I have never once had a customer call and say, give me a price to replace even one catalytic converter on one of those trucks. I have not had anyone email our radio show and say, hey, they think my converters are going bad. We've got this call here now. And we haven't had to put one on. So I'm thinking that they may not be bad.
And your vehicle, with the miles it has, is in extremely high demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just a little nervous that somebody made you an offer at the repair shop where it's being fixed.
And then say,
I hate to even go down that road, but I would just definitely, I think I'd get a second opinion.
Nathan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate participate in the show by visiting UnderTheHoodShow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150 and remind you that if you're in the left lane, glance to your right, and if there's not a car there, get in the right lane. I'm still salty from my road trip.
Should we lead the show with that every year? Right after Have a Great Day, remember PTLA? Should we just add that right in afterwards?
Every day, every week, we're just going to start with the left lane is for passing only. I had a 4,000-mile frustrating trip.
Did you exhibit
I addressed it last week.
Did you exhibit any rage?
No.
Okay.
No, I was in a Prius.
Okay.
You kind of got to just lay low. Let's go to Georgia. Bob has been waiting for a while to get on, so let's talk to Bob. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bob, what can we do for you?
Hey, a 97 Accord ABS light stays on. In the past, it would come on briefly, occasionally, but lately it comes on for 2 or 3 drives and off for 1 or 2 drives. Now it's on continuously.
Which means, first of all, you don't have ABS right now, which is dangerous.
Right.
Okay.
But that's also good news.
I drive easy. Another thing I need to I drive easy. I'm never on the ice or snow.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it does
sounds awesome.
To drive it without ABS.
He's in Georgia.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
You're probably fine without ABS, but if the light's on all the time now, that's great. It's going to make it easier to diagnose what's going on with it. You can either scan it and find out what the code is and what it's missing for an input. Maybe you've got a bad control module. Maybe you've just got a bad wheel speed sensor. I would suspect if it's going on and off like that, probably has a sensor.
Was, and now it's not.
Probably just a sensor, like a bad wire or something. But if you can't communicate at all with it, that's an indication that we have a wiring problem or a module problem. We don't experience a lot of wiring problems on the Accord with that ABS system as far as the control module side goes. And in a climate such as yours, you should experience even less of that, corrosion and things like that at the module. So I'd be more apt to think it's a wheel speed sensor, which is a more affordable repair. Down there's a lot of these cars on the road, Chris, because they just don't rust like they do in the Rust Belt.
I'll tell you, Bob, this is a timely call. When I was in Georgia last week, I saw for the first time in I don't know how long I was gassing up next to a Prelude.
Oh.
Oh.
And it caught my eye like I did a double take. Like, what is that? Oh. And then I remembered, it's just a Honda Prelude.
A Prelude in the wild.
Yeah. And I don't think I've seen one in how long? 15 years? 20 years? When did the...
Bob's like, I've seen 10 today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing about driving in climates that don't have the salt and the rust that you'll see cars like that. We've got a partner, NHOU. It's New Hampshire Oil Undercoating.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, for my own stuff, I look more and more at these products because take your car. Why do most people get rid of their cars now? They stop spending money on it, one, because they don't want to make any more repairs because the car's a rusty pile of crap. It's rusted out.
That's certainly how
corrosion
it goes
has
here.
won.
Yeah.
And once you'll I'll do a better job cleaning it and these things. You don't think about those until you start to see the rust. I find more people that start cleaning it after the rust has begun. So on my own vehicles now, I'm looking more towards products from NHOU to put on the vehicle, apply. It's oil undercoating, and you've got products to keep the salt from bonding. I'm looking today at our weather. Like, I'm driving down the road, and just as our commercial said, here comes the rust. Yeah, here comes the rust. You're following the salt truck, and you're getting pelted by salt, and then the salt spray, and your car's white, and you see the dust coming off the road when it dries up. But we envy you, Bob. We wish we were in Georgia where it was warmer, or we just wish the Georgia weather encompassed us all year long.
Bob, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Now let's go to Bob's neighbor, Marvin, in Florida. Marvin, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hi, Russ. Hi, Shannon, Chris. Great to get on the call. I guess this is one of the times the algorithm got it right. Found you a couple of years ago, and I've been listening ever since.
Thank you.
Awesome. I just heard
All
Spotify is making a whole bunch of new changes. They announced, so hopefully they'll get us in their sweet spot for recommendations
Right.
with everything they've got going on.
You keep putting out this type of content, I'm sure that's going to happen.
Thanks, Marvin.
I have a 2019 Tahoe that I picked up from an auction here locally in Florida. It's a PBV police pursuit vehicle. And I've been going through the motions of turning it into a civilian vehicle. I've taken out the spotlight. I've did some patching of, all the cosmetic stuff. So I really haven't driven it much, but fortunate for me, and this is my question, I have 52,000 miles on it, and I found the window sticker in the glove compartment, and it says that standard equipment warranty for a vehicle of this type is 5 years, 60,000. And I was wondering, have you ran across any situation where if I attempted to take this to the dealership for any type of maintenance within that window, will they have a issue with that? I have a small transmission leak that I noticed, and that was one of the things that I would consider taking it to them for that. And the AC wasn't blowing cold too. So those are the two items that jumped out at me, and I was wondering, am I in the window of opportunity to get this addressed under that vehicle warranty from you guys' expertise?
Well, I'm just going to ask a quick question. When you bought this at auction, was this at a surplus auction or a salvage auction?
It was a surplus.
Okay, so the vehicle's a surplus auction, has no salvage title history whatsoever or anything, correct?
No, sir, it does not.
Typically,
I still think it's going to be no-go, right?
Right, and here's why. If look a little further into that owner's manual, look on the back pages, and then get on the manufacturer's website. I believe that if you purchase that vehicle brand new for personal use, yes, you would have that warranty if it was originally sold that way. But since it was a commercial vehicle, usually the commercial vehicles have a different warranty. Yeah. And I believe that used in the type of work that it was used in, that vehicle probably had a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on it. But check it out.
It's easy to check.
Right.
Very easy to check. All you got to do is just call a local dealer and say, here's my VIN number. What's my warranty status?
Mm-hmm. That'll take care of that. And now on the other option with the AC.
And real quickly, to be clear on that, the dealer wants you to have, I mean, they're not going to smudge it all, right? Because they're going to get reimbursed if you do that.
Correct.
So that's it's
not their money. I mean, they're going to get paid no matter what. But as far as the AC goes, yeah, you could have that checked at any independent shop, and there's plenty of good ones down there in Florida. Probably some bad ones too, but there's plenty of good ones that can take care of you and get that going.
There's probably more AC experts in Florida than there are here.
Oh yeah, the typical leak on those is either the compressor body itself or the lines going to the rear of the vehicle. If you have rear air, don't know if that police vehicle is going to have rear air or not, but it may. It may have.
I bet they didn't turn it on.
Yeah.
It's warm back here. Well, don't be doing what you're doing.
Sorry, my air's broke.
Yeah.
Sweat it out.
Marvin, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Does that help you out?
Yes, it did. Appreciate it, fellas. You have a good one.
Thanks a lot. Bob from Georgia just called back. He wants to know what kind of scan tool he should do to get that, if he can check that there.
One of the good ones is Alltel. They make a good scan tool that can be used to check ABS, and even the plug-in Bluetooth ones you can get, like I got you, Chris, your little Christmas present earlier.
Yeah, love it.
a lot of those will scan it. You just got to read the package or online, read the description, and see if it'll scan ABS codes as well. And those are like $100.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Real quickly, I had a listener ask me, since we last were all three here, they said, this just came up, so I want to get on it. They said, what do you do? I hear you guys say something, they'll give an answer and say they're one of our partners. And he said to me, what do you guys do if they stop advertising? And I said, well, all we do is not say one of our partners because, and I to give credit to you guys, our partners are all people we do business with or would do business with. We don't.
At our shop.
Right. So you'll hear sometimes, like earlier, we talked about Wix Filters. Used to be a partner of ours on the show. They're not anymore, but we still mention them because we know their product is good. So when we mention someone and say one of our partners, we're not saying it because they are one of our partners. They're one of our partners because we would say them on the show.
And that could change if we found another quality product in the same
absolutely
lane.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
That we felt was good enough for what we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
That could replace the previous product.
Right.
That could happen.
And we're not mentioning it because they're not advertisers anymore. We just have a new partner with them. But I just wanted to put that out there because they heard us say that and said, well, what if they don't do that anymore? If we don't have a replacement that we believe in, we'll still use them.
Then like earlier when the gentleman called in with the truck and said, well, they put an oil filter on it. I said, well, as long as you get a quality filter like a Wix or a ACE Delco or a Mopar or a Ford, if we were exclusively working with Wix, we use all those products in our shop, but we'd say we would suggest a Wix filter because that is a great quality filter. We use it in our shop. We use a lot of products in our shop. And there are some that we don't use because they're crap. And we tell the advertiser when they call us, I'm sorry, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them get pretty upset. Like, well, why not? Our product's great. I'm like, I'm sorry. Look, the reason we do this is because we use it and we use it and it's not any good. So can't do it.
Right. We've turned down a lot of advertisers.
Yeah. There's a reason that when you listen to all the podcasts out, the big podcasts that, there's thousands and thousands of them out there. And typically you'll hear ads from places like Buy Gold and things like that are on all these podcasts. And they're just kind of generic.
You should stop naming them because just in case they do call.
We have had calls from the Buy Gold and from some of the energy drink people and things like that. And we've just said, no, this is not this kind of show. This is an automotive show. We're trying to help people out with stuff that actually fixes their car.
Chevrolet, though. I mean, if you guys, the C8, I'm just saying.
We could be convinced.
We're
not against being
considering
convinced.
Calling and, just give us
I'm just going to tell you, I'm human.
Right.
You want the C8? All right.
Yeah. Let's talk to Bruce. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bruce, what can we do for you?
Yeah. Hey, guys. I have a question. I listen to you as much as I can. I have a 2013 F150. It's got the EcoBoost 3.5 twin turbos on it. And it started making a howling noise, which I figured probably could be a turbo. But then I started reading up on stuff, and it could be an air leak in one of the tubes and stuff like that. But then it threw a code. It was a PO299 code. And it says the right turbo is bad. And also I read it could be an oil pump could be bad. It could be the EKG bad. You think I should just lean more toward the turbo and replace it? It's got 180,000 on it.
With 180,000 miles, the turbo could be bad, but it could have other issues too. It could have vacuum leaks going on. It could have leaking a turbo tube. It's just got to be diagnosed properly to find out what's going on. You could get a second opinion on it, but it wouldn't surprise me if the turbo was bad with that many miles on it. We have put a number of turbos on those vehicles. We've put just one on. We've done a lot of them in pairs.
That's what I was just going to ask Russ. If he's got 180K on it,
I do
and it is a turbo, you might want to do a pair to keep things equalized between the banks.
Well, and the other thing, too, is pull both the tubes off them and look inside. And if you've got a little bit of oil showing in one and the other one's bad already, then replace them both because you're going to be doing the other one shortly after. And I mean, there's more labor and more parts involved, but do you really want to do it twice in 6 months?
But moosing noises, lack of power, those sort of things from turbocharged vehicles are common, that there's a lot of piping that's involved. And I would definitely inspect that first before I go buying any turbos. I would look it over real well and inspect for oil on the wrong side of the seal. Like Russ said, if you're looking for that. And, for those that don't know, when you see the EcoBoost on the Ford truck, it's got a turbo hanging on both sides of the motors down on the bottom of each bank of exhaust. And so you've got a left turbo and a right turbo, and it's not a super complicated system, but it's all got to work right together or you're going to get problems. And so you want to make sure and get somebody that's got familiarity with that system to do some diagnosis before you start buying parts.
Bruce, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. I have a question about the moosing noise. This came up years ago. It's an official note in the manual that you guys get, the tech manuals and stuff. Here's something I don't know if I've ever asked. Is it a moosing noise because it sounds like a moose, or it's a moosing noise because it sounds like moose? Does it sound like a moose sounds, or does it sound like the word moose? Bruce. It could be a bruising noise. It could be a bruising noise, but it's a moosing noise. Is it because...
I've heard the moosing noise on many vehicles.
Have you ever heard a moose make noises?
Yes.
And it sounds like that?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like the word moose, but actually the noise that a moose makes kind of sounds like moose.
And then you think, well, maybe that's why they call them moose. Maybe they had a big animal and they were like, listen to that wolf.
I'm gonna probably make total fool out of myself here by some outdoor comment that is completely wrong. But
no worries.
We're good.
Is it elk or moose that make the bugling?
They both do, I think.
Okay. Because I'm not in.
When
I've got guys around here that are hunters like crazy, and they're going to just beat me up for even going down this lane.
They make a moosing sound.
I try and call them in myself sometimes.
Because I was going to try to be smart and say something, but I just realized I just need to admit my fault and just use it as a conversation piece.
I think the trumpeting noise is that noise is separate from the animal itself. It's a trumpeting noise that animal makes or a trumpet makes. But the moosing noise, that one's a bit confusing. You don't have an elking noise. You don't say, this thing is elking.
Sounds like a cow. That'd be better for me.
Oh, boy. Let's talk about quickly what you were gone last week. Let's make some people mad. We're going to make a bunch of people mad right now.
No?
Yeah, because we're just going to talk about EVs, and that just makes some people mad. Go ahead. Tell us about where you were.
2 weeks ago, I was at an EV conference.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, last week, I unfortunately was at a funeral that was really sad.
The microphones? Electro Voice?
Was it?
Microphones? EV conference?
Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was actually, I was at a conference called NATT.
NATT?
And it is the National Advocacy Group for Batteries. And they
Do you have gnats on your bat? We can correct that with
I have in my attic.
Bat control.
But it was started by 13 years ago by President Obama's administration, and it was to have people get involved in the industry of batteries for electric vehicles. And our trade association had went for the first time last year, the Automotive Recyclers Association, before I was on the executive committee, and they just talked about what a great experience it was for them to introduce our group as professional recyclers to these folks that are exploring this new frontier. Mm-hmm. And there is people there from the upstream, which is all about the creation of the batteries, the chemical compositions of the batteries, the engineering of the batteries. So we've got scientists. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just super brainiacs. And then you've got people that are involved in distribution and integration with the vehicles and charging systems. And then where we came into play is more in the downstream.
Mm-hmm.
What happens for the afterlife of the battery? And we're trying to make sure that our association, the professional recyclers, are represented correctly in this process, because we're going to end up with these vehicles. The manufacturers can do things to a certain extent, and they're going to have responsibilities, I think, governed by law for what happens with the hazards that come from the creation of these batteries. I think that will come because that's part of the initiatives around the world. But there are good solutions for these batteries that many people are trying to solve. And what we saw this year, according to my friends that were there last year, the difference between this year and last year was the groups that were there were like, this is a terrible analogy, you hear it overused, but they were like drunken sailors, because different this year was a ton of government money.
Okay.
And they started showing the slides. I got there on the second day, and they kept talking about because of the IRA, and I'm thinking, is this because of a 401k, the Irish Republican Army? What are they? It was the Infrastructure Reduction Act.
Okay.
Was being referenced in all of their beginning slides about this new money, and the Department of Energy is there. And there is a lot of companies that have jumped into this space for good reason, I think a lot of them, but there's going to be a lot of losers and a lot of winners. The technology is changing, from lithium phosphates to lithium, just the different types of compositions they're trying to use on the anodes and cathodes, and the technologies, and how that affects the recycling. They've got one that they can build that's going to be much better for the long-term use of the battery and for charging, but it doesn't recycle very well to get the materials back out of it. And so that's where repurposing comes into play. And our group's sitting here saying, hey, let's reuse these things in cars that need them, that break. And so we're trying to make sure we keep part of that conversation. We keep the value up for the materials and for our members, because there is precious metals inside of there that will become valuable. But it was very interesting, very eye-opening. Met a lot of people. It was quite an experience down in Phoenix. The weather was terrible there too, by the way. But
yeah, I bet.
Not as terrible as it was here.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. If you subscribe to our YouTube feed and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Lee Townsend, congratulations from our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu. That's the place to go when you want to know everything there is to know about automobiles, CNC machining, NASCAR Technical Institute, even airplane mechanics, airplane power plant, power frame. They've got it all. Check them out. They've got campuses all across the country and financial aid and all sorts of great stuff.
You know, when you say CNC, my mind starts going. And here's how my mind starts going. This is my brain. I think, I could make something cool. I could put my name on something. And you actually could change the world with a CNC machine.
I think about 80s music.
But for me, I just think, I could make a neat sign. That's the depth of my abilities.
Yeah, I think of 80s music and lots of bass.
So, Chris, CNC Music Factory.
Mm-hmm.
What did the CNC stand for? Did it have anything to do? Did they name that to do with anything? They weren't trying to make a spoof on it.
C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it does mean something.
You're right.
I
It
can't
was
remember what.
C.
Yeah.
Hey, I do want to bring this back to what you asked me before the break about the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
mentioned the Department of Energy money. One of the big news breaks recently that came out was Tesla announcing that they're going to open up their charging system to other brands.
Ah.
And it's all related to money that they can get.
Of course.
Because of some pressure applied through the Infrastructure Reduction Act.
Right.
And so there's a few things that I've seen come out that
Is that what it's called, the Infrastructure Reduction Act?
Or what?
It's not, because
No,
it's the
you wouldn't
opposite.
want to reduce
Yeah,
it.
it's the Inflation Reduction Act.
There we go.
There you go.
I said that wrong 3 times at least. But I'm glad you called me on that.
Every time you said it, I'm like,
yeah,
that doesn't sound.
because they were trying to do infrastructure.
Somebody will send us an email.
Yeah,
They'll
that's
hear
good.
just the one part.
That's okay. That's fine. We'll deal with it.
Yeah,
right.
No, at least they're listening. But there's been other choices by manufacturers. I think another one I saw is that some choices that were going to be done in Mexico, they brought it back to the United States to get some of this money.
Mhm.
There's a lot of money out there. It's in the hundreds of billions that's being put into this sector. And good, bad, or otherwise, that's greasing the wheels pretty fast.
They know if they don't work together, it's just not going to work as quick as they want. But things like that, the Tesla, that has always made me wonder. I see their plug-in, I see their car communicating with the charging station. You can't put anything else to charge it, but yet other charging stations have adapters and things, and you can get a Tesla adapter and you can charge your car with other people's adapters. And I thought, boy, Tesla's got such a huge network of supercharger stations. If that was opened up somehow, because most of them I see are empty.
My thought right away when that came out, Terry, we're going to get to you in just a second. Sorry about that. My thought on that the whole time was, if they just charged people to use it, it could be.
Well, they charge Tesla owners to use it.
They could.
Some of them.
If they charged other owners a surcharge to use it, everybody.
It's going to be more expensive. I read that in one of the articles. It'll be a different price for a non.
Look at the
Tesla.
vacancies in our area. Look at the supercharging stations that are around our town that are mostly empty. Occasionally, you'll see a car.
So if a car's plugged in and you have a Tesla, you can unplug them and plug it into yours. And I don't see any problems.
What
with
I
this.
looked at the other day was, it's got to pass some binary digits between the car and the charger. I think they're. But when I looked at the other day, we were going up to Minneapolis here a month ago, and we stopped at the Holiday Station on Highway 60 just as you get closer to the cities. And there's cars coming in and out of that place right on an intersection. It's just busy. They're all going in, getting gas going, getting. If those were all electrics, you got a lot of work to do to get enough chargers in place, and people have to do a lot of planning. So there's definitely work to be done. It's got things that'll work well. I know one of our salesmen here, one of his friends, he's big on the fishing world, like professional stuff and everything, but one of their friends got a new Lightning truck, and for whatever reason, they decided that they're going to hook a camper to it because it's got a tow rating, and they took off for either Idaho or Utah, and it was terrible.
6 months later, they arrived.
They called the dealer when they got to the end of the destination and said, "When we get home, you're trading me out of this truck."
Yeah.
For what they used it for.
Right.
They had found quickly that they had to go without heat. They had their speed limited. They found charging stations that they had planned to go to that were out of order when they got there. It was 13 charging stops to get there. Now, I'm just telling they were trying to pull, I think, too much camper. I think they were trying to make it break to a certain extent.
Watch the YouTube videos from reputable, non-biased people testing these vehicles, the Lightning specifically. And these guys took 3 trucks, a gas, a hybrid, and an electric. And they said, we're going to drive 200 miles. We're going to stop. We're going to turn around, drive 200 miles back. And while the Lightning was comfortable and had a lot of good stuff, they found that at the end, when they got back and they were all buying drinks and having pizza, they were waiting 45 minutes for the guy in the Lightning to get enough charge at the last place to return back. And they did it one trip with unloaded. The Lightning made it the whole way.
And let me
They did
throw
it with the trailer and
Let me throw in, I'm going to be the counterpoint here just for argument's sake and just to be fair.
Well, I said it's coming.
No, yeah. And the Holiday that you saw and thought that they probably had green pumps there that have diesel in them that however many years ago wouldn't have been there. And times just change and you figure that out as it goes. So
Well,
I just want to,
it's coming, but we're not ready yet. And that's why you've
For
seen
sure.
a lot of the manufacturers have also modified some of their plans. I mean, GM just recently announced that they're going to make a next generation of their V8 engine.
Yeah.
That caught a lot of people's attention.
Yeah.
Well, and there's other things. I mean, they've been trying for about 3 years to really push the electric. They've realized, and now there's a lot more from the manufacturers going, well, what if we stick with the ethanol a little longer? What if we try some hydrogen in these cars that is put into the tank and burned in an internal combustion engine, not in an electric fuel cell? And they're
Lots of experiment.
Trial and
going on.
error. We'll see.
Let's talk to Terry. You're on the Under the Hood show. Terry, sorry to make you wait. What can we do for you?
No worries. Hey, I got a Ford bought new in 2002 F250 that the last 3 times filling gas, you leave the gas station and the next time you try and start it, it won't start. So the third time was about a month ago. We decided to tow it to the local Ford dealer on a Saturday. Then on Monday when they were going to work on it, it started fine. And that seems to be the thing. It'll start later on.
Is this
So
a
I'm just trying to-
5.4 liter engine?
This is a V10.
Okay.
Yes, V10 gas. Got about 25,000 miles on it. It's always been garaged. It's the daughter's pickup, and she starts it every Saturday and Sunday and lets it run for a little bit. I'm not sure what the value of that is, but that's what she does.
I know one thing. You could take that to Mecum in Texas and get $50,000 for it, probably.
Yeah, it's really tight too when you ride in it. It's like brand new.
I don't like the idea of starting it and running it for a few minutes every couple weeks. I would rather let it
this
sit.
is every Saturday and Sunday.
No,
Just let it sit.
I would not do it. I would put a battery.
You'd run it for an hour all the way out,
No, I
or
would
not.
start it up and I would drive it on the road
Right.
for a couple hours and
Okay.
get it good and hot to get the condensate. Or I would put a battery maintainer on that vehicle, put it under the hood, and not drive it until I need to drive it, because the condensation buildup gets crazy, and that could be what your problem is. It could be that the emissions canister on it has got moisture in it. It's not venting it enough. It's not purging the vapors in the engine. So you've got moisture buildup. So what happens is you fill this thing full of fuel, and then it loads up and it's running rich until it all evaporates out of that canister and allows you to start it.
You don't think it would be like a fuel pump or anything like that, or a switch, or
It could be, but you're saying you fill it with fuel and then the next time you start it, it doesn't start, right?
correct?
Yeah, and that's
And you can
typically-
wait. It might, you might start in a couple hours, but it might be a couple days.
Yeah, typically that's usually canister related that we see, where you end up putting an emission system canister on the vehicle and a vent valve underneath there by the fuel tank, and that fixes it. But it could also be because of the condensation. Before you spend a lot of money and make repairs, you might just only drive the vehicle when you're going to drive it for at least an hour and get it completely warmed up, and then park it with that battery maintainer on it and see if this problem goes away after a few months.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds great.
There
It's
you go,
a free
Terry.
repair that way.
Sell that thing.
Russ is just right on the money, though. I mean, if you're not going to use it, just keep that battery tender on it. And the short startups, that's probably not in your best interest. And then when you do take it out and get it warmed up, when you go to park it, wherever it's going to get parked, if it's got a shed that sits in, it's not like it's inside. You got it warmed up, you pull it in there, you shut the key off, and that oil is just going to cascade down inside there, and you just leave it that way.
Things that we found on cars over decades of trial and error.
That is at a premium right now, and it's
What's your
it's
Solstice
not going to
like
go
right
up.
now, Chris?
It's not going to go up. That one is not. I don't.
It's parked, right?
Yeah.
It's going to have a maintainer. You're not going to start it. You're going to. I bet you do, just to hear it run sometimes. Right?
No, I don't.
No. But no, it's parked with a maintainer on
Mm-hmm.
it, and then as soon as the sun comes out, you're gonna. I mean, around here, hopefully, we're gonna get one of these things where we go from this to boom, and it's got it right someday.
Soon.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Rick. Rick, you're next on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Rick. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Rick, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for what you guys do. I appreciate it. South Dakota boy, I've got a 2018 2500 Dodge Ram 4 in it, the Bighorn Edition, and just turned on 90,000 miles on it, and just this winter, of all winters, of course, to have problems with the heat, it's kind of weird because, and I haven't done anything to it yet, but it gets below, I would say, 10 degrees. It blows cold air out of all the vents. If it gets like today's temperature around 30 degrees, it blows nice and hot air. Just wondering where I should start.
Which engine's in this truck?
The 6.4.
Okay, it's got the diesel in
The
it.
Hemi.
No gas.
Oh, the
motor.
Hemi,
6.4
6.4
gas.
Hemi.
Yep.
Yeah,
6.4
it's got the gas. Yeah.
All right. Well, we see often on these trucks heater core problems where the heater core just can't transfer enough heat when the temperature hits a certain spot. Like we're at 30, you're pretty good. And you're right. Down the road, it's nice and warm. But when you start dropping off 27, 26, 25, there's pretty drastic cutoff to where all of a sudden it's just gone. There's just almost no heat unless you're really driving at a higher RPM.
We see that in the opposite in the summer too, where a car will do good if it's 75 out, but not if it's 95.
Right. Where the heaters are the engines doing that. Right, Chris, it overheats. So what we find on these, the first step is we do a little inspection on it. It's time with the age and everything. Let's flush the heater core out. We just pull the two hoses off the firewall and we're going to flush that out with a power flush tool, which just takes an hour total to take it off, flush it, put it back on, top off the coolant. If that makes a difference in heat, but it's not quite enough for you, but it makes a difference, there's your problem. There's your 100%. That's what's going on. The core is restricted. By cleaning it and flushing it with power wash there, you made a difference. So, you're barking up the right tree. Now it's put a core in it, which is pull the dash, pull the box out, and swap it out. But we've put in a number. I've put in 3 in the last 5 months, 4 or 5 months. So it's pretty common on those. We don't see a lot of broken blend doors or blend door motors failing in those like we do on some other models, but this one I do see a lot of heater cores clogging up.
Is that so? Can he run it this way for a while?
It's not going to hurt anything.
Okay.
It's just a personal preference on whether you want heat or not.
And from what we've seen, we haven't seen great success of multiple flushings making any difference at that point.
No. Once you flush it once and the hard stuff's not coming out. It's very similar to the hard water deposits you get at home on your water system that just you can't get it out.
Would I be better off just replacing the heater core and being done with it? Or
well, yes.
I mean, it blows cold air out of all vents, top to bottom. So I mean, it's
verify.
But yeah, you want to before you do that, you want to make sure that's it.
Make sure the door motor is working, and you can do that by finding it behind the glove box. You pull the glove box off, just unhook it, take it down. You'll see that little blend door on the passenger side just behind the left bar of the inner glove box. You put your finger on the motor, on the little shaft there, and turn it from hot to cold, and it should move all the way one way and all the way the other, which you don't know what all the way is, but you'll get a pretty good idea it's moving like an inch both directions. Then you know the motor and the door is moving. Then it's time to go for the heater core.
And we're pretty sure that. I mean, this is probably it.
Yeah.
But
if it's got a broken door, the dash has to come out. The heater core box has to come out. If it has a bad heater core, dash has to come out. Heater core box has to come out. Same amount of labor either way. So if the motor's moving and it's temperature related, so we know the motor's got to be moving fully if it's warmer outside, because it is operating properly when it's warmer outside.
There you go, Rick. Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Going back to the conference, and I say this jokingly, but I mean it. Was your takeaway, did you find solutions to some problems or just identify more problems you know what I mean?
I think we identified more problems.
Yeah.
Which truly
is as important.
We met partners that can potentially provide solutions, but they don't have all those solutions yet either.
Right.
Because the biggest challenge I saw was that the technologies for making the batteries are changing so fast.
Right.
That the ability to recycle the products in a same stream is going to be difficult. the number of people that want to use these batteries in industrial repower situations and make really good stuff out of them. We ran into people like Mr. Battery, and they've got like world records on, I think they just recently did a world record on an electric boat or something. I know they've got a couple of world records on electric stuff, but they're using repurposed batteries to do a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
And so they're out there. So, I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge is all the changes. And Russ, we see this a little bit right now just with lead acid batteries, where they're starting to make a few lithium ion batteries to go in your vehicle for your 12-volt system. And they do not and cannot be recycled alongside the lead acid process. It's completely a different deal, and it'll cause a huge problem at the recycling plant. So I don't think we're in that territory yet, but if you're trying to get a battery recycled because you want to pull out components of nickel or lithium or manganese or whatever that one is, or whatever might be in there, well, it's like a catalytic converter is now. Some are going to have great content in them, and some aren't. Some are going to have things that don't mix with other stuff.
Right.
And so that's going to be a challenge, and it's changing by the 6-month period. The other thing that I learned that was disturbing, but it's not surprising, there's raw materials to make the stuff up to a certain point. I think I kept seeing the year 2030 was kind of a nexus point where they were getting nervous about running out of stuff to make the batteries with.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they're betting on new technologies to bring that down.
Right.
And they're betting on recycling to be part of that solution, to get materials back out of what's already been created. But they don't, I guess, two things. They don't see the retirements happening fast enough because the batteries are lasting long enough to bridge the gap to get the recycled battery material back for reproduction. And also, when they recycle the batteries down into a black mass, is which I'm probably oversimplifying this, and somebody out there is just screaming at me on the radio right now, but they recycle the materials into a black mass. There's a refining process that has to be done in order to refine that recycled material back to usable precious metals. The highest majority of that is done in China.
Okay.
And so we have nations that we're at odds with on a lot of things that control the refining of this recycled black material. So a lot of the money that's being given is...
So on top of everything else, there's also geopolitical...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So the people that are getting money from these grants and matched loans and different things are people that are trying to accelerate that here in the United States.
Okay.
And that's it's not a overnight process to build those systems.
And it's hazardous.
It's very dangerous. Yes. There's a lot going on.
For sure. Yeah.
Wow, it's just interesting when you go deep. I mean, you follow the money, you always find out where things go. But boy, that's just getting deep, from the recycling of it to the safety of batteries, and even us here at Nordstrom's Auto Recycling, we have batteries stored in different areas, Chris, because we have nickel metal hydride, lithium ion, lead acid. We separate them because if one, you can almost never set the thing on fire unless you have another battery of a different type that bursts into flames. And oh boy, that'll set that other one on fire. So we keep them separated.
There was just recently a 5-alarm fire, and was it in the Bronx? And it was well publicized that it was started by a overcharged EV battery on a scooter or a bike or something like that in an apartment.
There are a lot of those out there.
And there's a lot to learn yet. When we went to this high-end repair shop for electric vehicles in Arizona on a tour, our executive committee does, we found that he's building a separate place out back for when he's charging and putting power to him. He's out of his building.
Which you guys do in the internal combustion engine business too.
Yep.
Let's talk to Greg. Greg, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
On the Capitol Hill Grill.
Oh, turn your radio off in the background there, Greg. That's something we haven't had to say for a while.
Shaw says he is deeply sorry for the impact.
That is really, he's really got that radio cranked. Greg, are you there? Greg, are you there? I think he put us...
He can't hear us because
his
he's
radio
listening to live radio, and we're on the after show.
He was listening. He was turning his phone down to listen to the radio, instead of the other thing. So
Yeah.
now he's just still hearing the radio. Greg, are you there? No, Greg. Greg crossed himself up there. And now he can't hear us because this is the after show where we are not on the radio live. We are streaming still. So if you have a call in the next minute or two, you can call us.
Well, I had a question come in here. This is posed to me a lot, and people are reading and they're asking the question, how is it possible that my car or truck can get better fuel mileage when I use ethanol in it? You guys have heard that, right? Ethanol, it's got less BTU. That sounds impossible, right? If you've got a fire and you're making a fire with a blowtorch or a match, when it's first getting started, which one's going to be hotter, right? The one with more power behind it. So it just makes sense that the fuel is going to dictate everything about the way the car works as far as fuel mileage and performance and economy, all that stuff together, your horsepower and torque. Here's how that works. So somebody asked me in our shop, they said, I don't believe that I could ever get any better mileage. Well, they happen to be driving an EcoBoost truck that's turbocharged. That vehicle will get better fuel mileage when it has a higher octane fuel. So this guy has been running 88, 89 octane fuel in this truck. And he said, well, I don't use ethanol because it'll get worse mileage. And I said, try switching the E30 in there. And he says, well, it's not supposed to use E30. I said, you're right. I said, we can't tell you that to use it because the government's telling you, no, don't use it because it's not been tested and recommended, but people are going to do what they're going to do. It's their choice.
So why are you mentioning it on the national radio show?
There you go.
We're on the after show.
That's true.
So how can a car get better fuel mileage when you're running ethanol in it versus when you're not running ethanol in it? And the whole thing boils down to the bottom line is octane. If you've got a vehicle that runs better with a higher octane in it than with a lower octane, even if it's ethanol and it does have a lower BTU content, the engine computer will adjust based on the fuel going into it. And if it says, I've got 87 octane fuel, I can't turn the timing up. I can't change the fuel delivery to optimize the performance of this engine. The fuel economy is going to suffer.
And it's what you're talking about isn't universal. There are other cars where it's the opposite. I mean, the octane doesn't help.
Right.
So it depends on the type of engine, how it burns the fuel, and how the octane affects it.
Exactly. So, Chris, every car that you put higher octane in it, whether it be ethanol or regular standard gasoline, you could have a car that runs great on 87 or 88 gasoline or 87 or 88 ethanol. You're going to save a little money when you're running the ethanol, but you're going to get a car that can benefit, like the small turbocharged engines and the EcoBoost Ford trucks and things. They really like that octane. And when you can increase the octane of a fuel by way of ethanol, and you're putting, let's say you're putting an E30 in a vehicle that's designed for that, and you can get that higher octane, you're going to drastically, change your fuel economy. Now, could you get that with gasoline? Sure. But do you want to spend $4.85 a gallon for one when you could be paying a lot less for the other?
And the ethanol is going to burn cleaner in your engine.
Right. And it's sustainable. So that's how cars work. So to answer your question, when people call me and email me and call the show and ask, how is it possible that an engine can get better mileage just by changing the fuel and going with ethanol versus gas? It's all about octane. Better octane, it equals a better performing engine where
I think the first we heard about this,
benefit.
I remember talking with Bruce Vollen from Midway Oil, and he had a customer at the time, they were just blending and they was doing a mail route, I think, with like a 07 or 08 Tahoe or something like that. And they found that the sweet spot was like E30.
Mm-hmm.
They got their best fuel economy. It ran well.
Yeah, more than that, it will fall off. Yes, because the BTU is lower. But
on that particular vehicle, the way the computer adjusted for it, it worked well.
Yeah, it's a
And
good
if you
idea.
have a super high performance and you set it for E85, you can get
Yes.
like my end. If I tuned mine for the E85, it
Right.
would boost the horsepower ridiculous.
Yours is a flex fuel car, and if we set the tuner in that to increase the boost, increase the timing, it'll optimize that and it'll get even better. That's why NASCAR and Formula One have been running, E85 to power their cars or high octane, high content ethanol in them.
Let's talk to Andrew in Ohio. Andrew, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hey, yeah. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my truck's transmission. It's a 03 Chevy 2500 HD. And when I take off, typically the first time I start up and try to move, it will occasionally just rev up like it's not engaging, and I'll let it back down. And then the next time I try, it might start to pick up and finally go. It's almost like it has a clutch and it's not engaging kind of deal. And then on occasion, it will do that when I'm at a stoplight, and I'll be like, "Oh, I got to get going! Come on!" And so I just kind of rev it up, and then it engages real hard and kind of jerks the truck to get going. So I'm just curious of what's causing that.
And what do we got for an engine? And is it a diesel or a gas?
It's a gas 6-liter.
Sounds like you might have something going on, and like the transmission is something's failing in it. Our first step: check the fluid condition, make sure it's full and looks like it's not burning or smelling like it's burning. The next step is a little deeper. We're going to get a scan tool out, and we're going to read and see if there's any pending codes that maybe not be hard codes set yet, or even hard codes, either way. And then I'm going to look at the data of that transmission and see what the values are inside the trans, see if anything's slipping, see if it's commanding it into gear. And if it's not moving when it's being commanded into gear, that either means we have a problem with the computer that's running the transmission. It's not actually sending anything out, which would need to be verified by a multimeter on that line, or a solenoid could be failing inside of that transmission, not allowing the fluid to be passed to the different clutch packs in there.
That's what you're hoping it is.
Yeah, that's
what you're hoping it is. That one right there.
Yeah, and when I say transmission failing, it can be anything from the wiring and a solenoid to internal clutches, which is the solenoids are external. We call them repairs. You pull the pan. It's
Especially
external.
on a truck like that, you can access most everything right from the bottom.
For sure. Whereas the other route is complete transmission. We've put a number of these transmissions in, but I wouldn't say it's been an alarming issue of transmissions in these vehicles. So I would be optimistic that it may be able to be repaired via electronic repair. We have seen plenty of modules go out in these things. In fact, I got a call from somebody yesterday trying to program a couple of them because they had failed and they wouldn't shift. So they had replaced them with some certified used parts.
Okay. Is that solenoid, the shifting solenoid, is that a fairly cheap part I can buy and just essentially
There's multiple solenoids in
unplug?
there. You've got solenoids that control the line pressure. And then you've got solenoids that can control different gear sets.
Yeah. And yes, they are pretty affordable. Our partners over at Dorman Products sell shift solenoids for those. You could stop on and go to an AutoZone, pick them up. You're probably going to be, I'm just guessing by the last ones I purchased from there, $35 or something like that. And you'll have a 1-2 shift solenoid, a 2-3, the overdrive, pressure control. If you were taking the pan off to do a change of fluid and a filter kit in it, the solenoids are staring you right in the face. So at that point, it's an 03. You got some miles on it. Do they fail on their own? Yes, they get gummed up with varnish and sludge and stuff. So it's not going to sit you. If you put them in yourself, it's going to be cheaper than you taking it into the shop, spending an hour to 2 hours to pay them to diagnose it and not do anything other than diagnose it. So you might try it at home. You might get a 100% fix out of your trial to diagnose it. And you could, if you do have to take it to the shop, you can say, forget about the solenoids. I've already put them in. This is what I put in. I went down to AutoZone. I bought a couple solenoids for it. This is the part number. So you know what's in it. Then they don't have to go telling you, well, we should try some solenoids first and a fluid flush. You already did it.
Step 1, check the fluid.
Yes. And if it's black.
Yeah. And I've done that. No, it still kind of has that, reddish tint to it, and it's on the stick. So it's not like it's drained low or burning up.
Yeah, you could be optimistic. You might be able to get an electronic fix, not a transmission rebuild. I'm fairly optimistic with the symptoms you described, and now you saying that the fluid still looks pretty good. I'm optimistic that you get that to a transmission shop that has a specialist in electronics. They work on that kind of stuff, which should be all of them by now.
Yeah.
If they're specializing in transmissions and haven't adapted to that, they're pretty old school. And like Russ said, you might just get creative and adventurous and do it yourself and see what happens.
Andrew, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right. Anything else on the after show?
Well, the only thing I would like to say is I've been gone for 2 weeks. And, Chris, you were gone for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Russ got snowed out the week he was going to do the show.
COVID.
And COVID is coming into the picture again.
Still trying to get over that.
But, my gosh, he's been working in the studio here.
It's beautiful.
You notice the sign glowing behind Russ? We've had that laying on the bench here for quite a while. Our friends made that for us. And you see the sign, and, then you don't the things you don't see are all of our different clocks and on-air indicators for YouTube and everything else. When you walk into the door, I saw there's a new sign that says the studio's live. Basically, check with the producer before you come in. We've got new microphone arms and extensions and microphones, the suspended microphones here in this springy, fun spider web looking thing here. There's sneeze buttons and things like that. I've got a green light glowing on me right now, if you can see that. That green light, so I can pick my nose. So that if that green light's on, once we get this all working right, that means that I'm not on camera and I can pick my nose.
Right.
Because I do.
Yeah.
And so, I can, whatever else got to be done. So this is, and he's been doing this work after hours, and it's quite impressive.
I can't get the green light on you, because to get on you with the green light on would turn the green light off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to stop talking.
No, yeah, and then it will, if the green light's on, the camera isn't on you, but if the camera's on you, the green light goes off, so we can't
Not
show
for a
the
split
green
second,
light.
just like really quick.
No, it doesn't.
We've got a new clock up there. All the wiring. That's quick. Green lights on.
Stay right
Green
there.
lights on,
Don't
green
move.
lights on,
Don't
green
move.
lights on,
Don't
green
say
lights on.
anything. Just ready. Let's see if we can get it.
Nope.
Oh, it's wired
It's
well.
that fast.
But
yeah, it's instant.
All the wiring, was kind of roughed in, hanging, exposed, and it's all been tucked up in the attic and through the floor and wherever else it had to go.
We had to keep moving
that
equipment around to find out what one. Oh, that one? That's going in the wall?
Yeah, it's going. It's driving him crazy.
Oh, that cord behind him?
Yeah.
He's leaning in front of it.
Yeah, well, you got to have it. We had stuff hanging out because we didn't know where we wanted the equipment permanently.
But the biggest thing is that a pursuit of perfection on the signal coming out of this studio for the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've been shown, and I only know a little bit of it, we're talking about a complete rewiring and reconnecting of most everything.
Yeah, again, a second time around.
And so it's all cleaned up. It all looks very sanitary and professional. And we sound awesome.
Mm-hmm.
These are new headphones.
And you probably didn't notice listening or watching. Only someone like Russ would notice, then he tracked it down and fixed it.
And fixed it, thought he had it fixed, and then realized that maybe we got to change something else. But, we're learning stuff about I'm talking for Russ here because he's told us all this stuff, but we're learning about to get a YouTube. It's the show.
Yeah.
He's learning.
We learn.
Yeah. This is a pretty big proverbial turd. But they've learned that there are limits of how many decibels of extra noise you can have that are permissible.
They'll squash your podcast and YouTube feed if the computer at YouTube and Spotify and iTunes can hear it, and we can't hear it. They're like, nope, it's not good quality for our listeners, and I don't blame them.
So we know we're in a good spot with what we're doing with the show, but we just took another jump, and most people won't see it.
Yeah, yes, and that's why
most people won't hear it.
You're calling it out because it is.
It needs to be,
yeah,
because
agreed.
It's been a big effort
by Russ.
Yeah, by Russ.
More coming.
What's left?
Oh, you'll see next week.
Oh, now I'm excited.
Yeah,
comes this weekend.
Well, it's gonna be another snowstorm. Nothing else to do.
The electronics are done. This part's done. This is just the pretty stuff.
Can you fix that one piece of foam that's hanging up there that bothers me?
Oh yeah, look at that.
What?
That's been like that for a long time. I don't know how many times I've been walking over there. I'm going to push that back up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. No, I've got.
But only I've never even looked in that corner because it's.
Yeah, no, I've got.
Will we keep the sheet music paper from? Is that Doug's? Is that your praise music sheets?
Yeah, that might work now. Either that, or I've got to screw some shields up there. That's part of glare control for the.
Yeah, that's unnoticeable. I think.
You can't see it from down here, but I don't want them there. I've got to do there's a plan for that up there.
Is that praise music?
It could be.
What does it say, Chris?
Doug's. Worship music.
UTH Studio startup procedure. Well,
that's why we can't find out what we need to do it for ourselves.
I hung it on the ceiling.
To the ceiling. Exactly where we all look.
Yeah. Number one. Yeah, that's funny.
I see that startup.
We should write that down somewhere. We did.
Well, it's all changed
we taped
now.
it to the ceiling because that's the first place Chris is going to look.
I just looked at it. It is not relevant. It is that
old,
procedure is the old procedure.
Okay, all right.
I got to drill some holes in the wall and put the wires through, and then some other ones in there, and this and that. Whoa, man!
It's
pretty special.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's ours. And it's ours.
Thanks for viewing and listening and all that. That's why we're able to do it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, thanks for all the new subscribers. We're getting a lot of new subscribers on YouTube. We appreciate that. Keep pushing that button if you would, please. And
the
it does make a difference.
Subscribe and the notifications and the sharing it with someone, that really does. That's huge.
It's boosted. I mean, you can look and see how our numbers have gone up in the last 4 or 5 weeks here, and we appreciate that. You know, it's great. Even if you're watching for a short time, we appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, there we go. Welcome back.
I'm glad to be back.
And there you go. That is the Under the Hood Show. Thanks everybody for watching and streaming and sharing and subscribing and commenting and reviewing and rating and all the other things.